Welcome back to the Premier League show with more on our breaking news from earlier. Casemiro will leave Manchester United at the end of the season when his current contract expires. Our reporter Dan Khan is on a special assignment for us in Bolton. More on that a little bit later, but he's made some time for us to bring us up to speed with why both parties have come to this decision. And look, I'm on with Michael Brown, and he was asking this question, Dan. Was this a surprise, and why has it been announced now?
Yeah, good evening, Vicky. I mean, I think this has been a huge surprise to everyone involved, who cover Manchester United, who are around the club, because this isn't something we saw coming in terms of a formal announcement. And what you have to say is quite, maybe not the word strange, but is quite abnormal, is to hear from a player 6 months with their contract left to say that they definitely won't be at the club in the summer, no matter what that decision is. And look, the other side of this is I don't think it's kind of a decision that we didn't think would happen. I mean, I remember reporting a few months ago saying that it was quite unlikely United were ever going to trigger his 12-month option in the summer, nor even try and renegotiate some new terms with Casemiro. Now, of course, he's been at the club for 4 years after signing from Real Madrid. I remember actually under Eric Ten Hag, they'd lost 4-0 to Brentford, which was a really difficult start to the season for United. And then out of nowhere, Casemiro joins Manchester United from Real Madrid, having come off 5 Champions League titles. Now, his 4-year stint at Manchester United has been incredibly challenging, not just because of the team struggles, but he's had almost a different midfield partner every season. You think last year he had the likes of Christian Eriksen, this year it's Bruno Fernandes next to him as well. And despite him having some struggles last year under Ruben Amorim, he couldn't get into the team for a while. He was praised for all the gym work and individual work he did away from the team to force himself back in, and maybe that's a true testament of his own character. And now that he's back in the Brazil squad, leading them into World Cup. But look, it also brings clarity to his own future. We'd reported a few weeks ago that there'd be no fresh talks around his contract, but there were reports talking about potentially his contract being triggered in terms of that extra 12 months. So it gives him clarity going forward, the club as well, and maybe the players and supporters around it, that we won't be asking Michael Carrick for the next 3 or 4 months, is Casemiro staying in the club? However, what I will say is tomorrow's news conference has just got that much more interesting.
It certainly has. So what are you going to ask him? What could this mean, do you think, in terms of incomings at Old Trafford? I bet that's what you're going to ask him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, it's very interesting because Casemiro, of course, we all knew his contract was running out this summer. Harry Maguire is also someone to talk about because his contract also runs out this summer. No fresh talks have happened with him either. But with especially Casemiro, he is one of the highest earners at the club. And with that freed up wage space, we've been reporting for however long now, Vicky, not just this window but previous windows, how Manchester United are targeting the summer to reinforce their midfield. We've already talked about the likes of Adam Wharton at Crystal Palace, Carlos Baleba at Brighton, as just a few names, Elliot Anderson at Nottingham Forest, to name a few. And through Ineos taking really control of the football operations, they've tried to change the wage structures to streamline it a lot more, and they're hoping that all of this space, capacity, freed up space, can allow for more signings in the future. And with the midfield as a priority, it will mean that they definitely have to now sign someone in the summer, because they'll only have Manuel Ugarte, Kobbie Mainoo, who looks like a new player under Michael Carrick based off the Manchester derby. But with Bruno Fernandes now moving to the 10, they won't have many options in that position if Casemiro, well, we know he is leaving in the summer, so United will have to act quick.
They certainly will. Looking forward to that press conference tomorrow with you. Thank you very much, Dan. Right, United's great rivals Liverpool were the best of the best, weren't they, in the Premier League last season? But the riches that come with winning the title aren't enough to put them at the top of the latest football-rich list. The reigning champions are 5th in this year's list. It's the first time there hasn't been an English club in the top 4. Real Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern Munich and Paris Saint-Germain all benefited from going deep in last season's newly expanded Champions League and the expanded FIFA Club World Cup in the summer. After Liverpool come Manchester City, Arsenal, then United, Spurs and then Chelsea. Manchester United have topped the Money League in 10 of its 29 editions, most recently in 2017, but they're down to 8th due to, in part, their absence from the Champions League. And the club are set to generate even less matchday revenue this season due to their total absence from European competition and their failure to go past the first hurdle in either of the domestic cups.
Manchester United have long been one of the biggest brands in English football history, and they've now, after years of performance falling slightly, they've been caught up by some of the other clubs in our money league, particularly when you look at the revenue generation of Real Madrid and the like.
Well, United, of course, are not in, as we said, any European competition this season, although they did make the final of last season's Europa League. This is the Champions League group phase table, as you see here, after match day 7, with 8 of the current top 10 also appearing in the top 10 of the latest Money League. For more on this, I'm joined by our chief correspondent, Kaveh Solokov. Thank you for coming on. Premier League is used to being top of the pile, isn't it? So kind of what's changed this time around then?
I think what's changed is that historically the Premier League clubs have always been, well, apart from Real Madrid, the richest, because Premier League's broadcast rights are worth more than any other broadcast rights of football leagues around the world. So the games that are shown on TV stations all around the world pay for the rights to show those games, and that money ends up going to the clubs in the Premier League. And they make a lot more money than the Italian league or the Spanish league or the French league or the German league. But what has happened, especially last season, is that for the first time, clubs in Europe are now making more money from commercial revenue than they are making from broadcast revenue.
Okay.
And when you have, I don't like to call football clubs brands, but I will. If you have a brand like Real Madrid or a brand like Barcelona or Bayern Munich or PSG, a lot of the biggest companies in the world want to be associated with those brands. So that is one of the reasons why you're seeing those clubs in the top 4 spots. The other reason is to do with the Champions League being expanded. More games now, these clubs are making more money from playing in the Champions League through broadcast revenue as well. And also, finally, the Club World Cup, FIFA's new tournament that was held last summer. 3 of these 4 clubs at the top, apart from Barcelona, all played in it. And so they would have made an extra 70, 80, 90 million pounds from playing in that competition as well, which Liverpool didn't play in. Manchester United didn't play in that either. Manchester City and Chelsea did play in it. So I think those are the reasons why it's quite surprising not to see any English clubs in the top 4. But these big European clubs are catching up and taking over the big English clubs, despite the fact that their domestic broadcast revenues remain a fraction of the revenues that the Premier League clubs get.
It's interesting what you said there as well, because I thought Chelsea would be higher because, of course, they ended up winning the Club World Cup. But obviously Liverpool are the highest English club. So how's that happened then?
I mean, Liverpool are the top dogs. I mean, they are a phenomenally well-run club on and off the pitch. On the pitch, they won the Premier League, so they would have maxed the revenue they would have received from the Premier League in broadcast and prize money. They also played in the Champions League as well. If you look at their figures, for instance, their match day revenue was almost twice as much as Manchester City's. Their broadcast revenue, they made £280 million because they did so well in the Premier League. What really stands out is their commercial revenue, £320 million. They are catching up the likes of Manchester City and Manchester United, in part because Anfield, which has been redeveloped, is now being used for concerts as well. Taylor Swift, I think, played there. Dua Lipa played at Anfield. Bruce Springsteen played there as well. And I think those concerts have been one of the reasons why Liverpool's commercial revenue was up around 7% last year.
Goodness me, that's quite a lot. I haven't got time, unfortunately, to ask you whether you are a Swiftie, but I know you are. OK, stay with us.